Hey, fuckers.
I don't know what I wanted to play, but it's good enough. People don't understand the harmonica. There's a lot, like you pull in and you blow out. So you got to, when you're doing these solos, you got to remember all that shit. You got to, what the ins and the outs and the ins and the trills, and it's a lot of shit involved. And people just think, Bob Dylan goes, fuck you. Learn to play the goddamn thing. Don't give me that shit.
Hey, fuck Bob Dylan.
Yeah. FBD.
Did you have a good weekend? Did you do anything cool?
Got the pool almost straightened out. Still got a problem with chemicals, but I got a guy coming over this Saturday. Can't get in anyway because it's freezing.
Yeah.
I did get in. We had a couple days of 80. Turned the heater on. Water's up to 85 in one day.
Shit.
And I was in and I loved it. Now it's down to like 60 again. So I won't turn it on until we get. You got to have days in the 80s and nights in the 60s for that heater does shit.
Yeah.
But last week after we finished the podcast on Wednesday, Kelly and I went over to Jimmy and Kathy's. Had a really nice dinner over there. We go to Cafe Roma a good bit. Jimmy and Kathy have been with us probably a handful of times. So we're always trying to, when we have each other over, because he's been over here a lot and we've been over there a lot, so we are always trying to come up with something different. What haven't we had for these guys yet? And so Jimmy's a chef. Jimmy knows what the hell he's doing. He made this dish called chicken saltimbocca. And it's a dish that I get at Cafe Roma a lot because it's my favorite. And he made it, and it blew me away.
Really?
It was better than, sorry Cafe Roma, but it was great. So we had a really nice evening with them. Some other friends, my brother Dave and his wife Kelly was there. Just a nice evening. Deb and Tracy, other friends that Jimmy they've known all their lives. So just a nice evening with friends. That's what I do now. Yeah. I don't go out anywhere. I don't do anything. I'll go out to dinner once in a while. Kelly can get me out to Cafe Roma because I love that place.
Yeah.
And a Thai place, silk Thai, great. Other than that, good luck. Because Kelly's a great cook, and it's her own fault she keeps me here.
Well, you are getting out for something this week.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that. That's cool.
Thanks to Jamie. Jamie had an invite for me.
Shout out, Jamie.
Yeah.
One Room Media.
He's apparently the Flying Boxcars, the Hagerstown baseball team, is having a special night, and they're having special people come out and do things, and they're having me come out and do the first pitch, which I've never done. I'm so glad they didn't ask me to sing the national anthem because I just said, fuck nah, I ain't singing the national anthem. I don't even know the words of the national anthem.
A lot of people don't.
If I would do it, I would fuck it up. I know I would.
And
I would do a Carl Lewis at the top. And the rock and roll. Shit. Did you ever see that?
I did.
Oh, it's horrible. I just shrunk in my chair when I thought, oh, Jesus, that's why I'm never doing that.
Secondhand embarrassment's big on that.
Ooh. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to throw out the first pitch. That'll be cool. I'm going to have my daughter and her boyfriend and my wife Kelly with me, and maybe my brother-in-law. He asked about it. I said, well, I don't know what's going on yet, but if there's room for another one, I might drag him along. But yeah, that sounds like fun. And I hear the stadium's beautiful, the new Meredith Stadium.
It is.
So yeah, and it's cool. Hagerstown needs something like that. I used to love going over and watching the Hagerstown Keys, Hagerstown Suns. And one of my good friends, Larry Jessup, used to be the mascot.
I didn't know he was the mascot.
And he's an idiot. He's a complete idiot. In a great way. He's just a funny guy. And he would do like pre-game warm-up, making people laugh. And
Larry works there now.
For Meredith?
Yeah.
Does he really?
Park, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
great. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him. Very cool. Larry, as the Suns mascot, he would run to first base and slide head first. Every base he would do that. And that big old head,
Yeah.
it would just bounce off the dirt. And it was just entertaining as hell. And my other friend, you spent a whole lot of time with Doug Levine, who I don't see that much anymore.
Yeah.
Which is sad because we were great friends at one time. But for whatever reason, the friendship faded. But he introduced me to Larry. And he, knowing that I was a big Orioles fan and Larry's a big Orioles fan, he wanted me to know who Larry was and who was his affiliation with the Suns and the Orioles and all that. So it was cool to meet him. And man, did he have some stories. I went to an Orioles game with Larry.
Okay.
And Larry was the kind of guy, he's always thinking of how he could just get somebody, how he could humiliate somebody, just get a big laugh. And we're sitting you've been to Orioles Park. Have you ever been there?
Yes.
I mean, the seats are like real close
Yeah.
and people are right in front of you. And Larry got this Coke and he started bottling, what the fuck am I trying to say? Mush up this cup.
Yeah.
And he's got this cup. And I'm going to stand up, so you're going to lose me in the frame. But he just stands up, and the guy right there, he goes, pow, hits this guy in the head, the
No
back of the head,
shit.
and he turns around and goes, you son of a bitch. And there I am going, just holding back the laugh. How in the fuck can you not laugh at that? You dirty son of a bitch. And I just pinged this guy in the back of the head as hard as he could.
Jesus Christ.
That's Larry Jessup. He was nuts. Another good story. I got a lot of good Larry Jessup stories. We were at might have been the basketball game. I don't know if it's still the Capitals or the Wizards, whoever it was, but you know how those bleachers go straight up.
Yeah.
We're up in the nosebleeds. This is one of these deals where Larry says, I got tickets. Come on, let's go. Okay, fine. So I go, and Larry we're up the top, and he goes, watch this. And I go, oh, God, what's he going to do now? And this guy had this huge bucket of popcorn that they get for, like, the whole family.
Yeah.
He sets this thing down. It's in the aisle. So Larry gets up, and he starts walking down, and he steps right in that bucket of popcorn and falls forward and kicks the popcorn up in the air.
No.
And again, I just go,
Jesus.
I can't laugh out loud because it's got to look like an accident. So I just start scurrying down the steps so I can laugh like a hyena. That's my Larry Jessup story. There's
Holy
more.
shit.
There's more, but God, he's a funny guy. We were good friends with them when our kids were real young. Doug's kids were young, and my kids were young, and
Yeah.
Larry's kids were young. We hung out a lot and did a lot of family stuff together. It was neat. It was nice because it got me away from the kicks and the whole, and made me feel normal and grounded. So they were good friends at one time.
Yeah. Remember going over, watching movies, me, you, and Doug over at his house?
Oh, really?
Yeah. You don't remember that?
What movies did we
I think
watch?
Doug had just got laid up with a surgery of sorts. So we went over to visit him, and we watched some movies over there at his house.
Okay. I don't remember that, but if you say so.
We drank beer
Nah.
and watched movies. Yeah, that was our wayside days.
Was it downstairs in this
Yeah.
man cave? Oh,
Yep.
okay. I vaguely remember. I used to go watch sporting events with him down there.
It was either the wayside or Doug's, and we went to Doug's that night.
Okay.
And we made up for it the next week at the wayside.
Of course. Probably asked you to dance.
That was a fun bar, wasn't it? The wayside.
It was, because I could stagger back. You know,
Yeah.
it was nice. I could walk there and stagger back. Remember a guy named Bo Schenenbeck? Yeah, real deep voice.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know why he had a voice like that, but he did. One night we were down at the wayside, and he was just nuts, just one of those crazy guys to be around. And we got about half lit at the wayside, and we're running back to we called it the green box. It was no more than a quarter mile away from the wayside. And Bo hits me, goes, I'll race you. Okay, well, I can fast. I'll annihilate you. I take off like a rabbit. And he's coming up on me quick, and I'm slowing down thinking, I'm not going to hurt myself. And he comes up, and he knocks me over. I mean, knocks me off of my feet. Gravel and into the road. I'm like, what the fuck? You dumb son of a bitch. Are you shitting me? Are you that competitive? You had to wipe me out to beat me? That's all I got to say about that. That's my wayside stories. But that one sticks out. It's like, what the fuck?
So he won, though.
Oh, he won, hands down. I had to put like 12 Band-Aids on my body. Like, I hit hard.
I'll bet.
Man, I couldn't believe he did that.
Jesus.
I know. Hey, don't you know I'm a rock star? You son of a bitch.
You know what? A few episodes ago, man, we talked about who we thought should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we went through the people that were being
The nominees.
the nominees.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we gave our opinion. So now that it's done, I got a short list here. I don't know if this is the entire list, but these are the inductees of what I found on Google. So first up, Bad Company. Mm-hmm. We both said definitely yes to them.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Rogers should be in there on his own, just for free, and for the stuff he did with Queen, and just for his. Yeah. When I hear about these long-term snubs, I listen to Eddie Trunk's podcast a lot, and Eddie's is part of a voting. He's part of the voting, so he knows the ins and the outs of the hall. And usually when bands like that don't make it in because they should, there's usually some political shit. There's usually somebody in the hall that has a grudge against them. So when those people die, they finally get in.
Yeah.
Same thing just happened with last year. A band got in that wasn't Foreigner. It was another band. Might have been, was it Foreigner? I think it was Foreigner.
Yeah, they were last year.
Another band. How could that band not be in the Hall of Fame? But there was somebody in the hall that had a grudge against them. Something, they pissed somebody off. So that's what happens.
Unreal.
Yeah. But thank God they're in now.
Chubby Checker is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Chubby Checker is known for one thing, but it's huge. You know?
I just heard the other day that he didn't just come out with the twist. There were 3 more songs. Return to the Twist.
Oh, yeah.
Twist Again.
Yeah.
And, like, he just kept on that one song and made a lifetime of it.
Twist My Nuts. That was one. But I get it. I get it why he's in there. I mean, when you say, if you know the name 70 years after the man who was famous, there was a reason.
Yeah. Joe Cocker, I think we both said yes to him.
Yeah, I get the legacy. I get. I've never been a fan. I used to love when Belushi did him.
That was gold.
That was great. But it was funny as hell. Even Joe Cocker liked it.
He had to.
And he would go on the ground and he would roll. Yeah, Joe Cocker should be in there. So should John Belushi, just for doing him that good.
Cyndi Lauper, I think we said yes to her.
Yeah, I mean, Cyndi Lauper's, she had a lot of good hits. She was a child of the 80s, 90s, early 80s, 90s. Yeah, I can see that. And she's a rock and roller. I think we said this before. It should not be called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Correct.
It should be called the Music Hall of Fame, because a lot of these artists aren't rock and roll artists. But Cyndi Lauper, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Outkast, that's the one I said that had the member Andre 300 or something, and it's actually Andre 5000.
Whatever.
That still don't ring a bell with you.
Yeah, no bells ringing here either.
Hey Ya was their song.
Who cares?
The Rock and Roll, the Music Hall of Fame cares.
Yeah, they don't care about Foreigner or Bad Company.
It is Andre 3000.
Andre 3000.
So, yeah,
Give
we
a
didn't agree
shit.
that Outkast should have been put
I
in
don't
the Rock
even
and
know.
Roll Hall
You
of
could
Fame.
put them in my car and I say, get out.
Soundgarden has been inducted.
I'm not a fan, but I was a fan of, who was the singer? Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
Again, they were part of the movement that moved us out. So I couldn't really embrace much of that stuff. The one band that I embraced was Collective Soul.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot. And only because I liked what I heard on the radio. The other stuff all they all sounded like this.
Yeah.
Everybody sounded the same. And I'm like, what the hell
And it
is
was
that?
all depression.
Yeah.
That whole grunge was just
and
depression.
the look went, the cool look
Yeah.
went. Everybody just went into flannels and big baggy pants. I'm like, what the? That's not cool. But
I hated grunge too because it pushed out the 80s music that I
Yeah.
was such a fan of, but now,
I wouldn't have hated it if it wouldn't have ended my career for 5 years.
but look what it did for your career
Yeah,
when it came
it brought
back.
it back, but initially it ended my career.
I got a newfound love for that music. Not completely. I don't like Pearl Jam. I don't like a lot of those bands, but Chris Cornell.
Oh, he was good.
He was
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, there's some of them I've embraced since then. I understand the Nirvana thing. Nirvana was just so raw and original that I understood the appeal. I don't like most of their music, but
Yeah.
because I grew up in a different era. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so if it's not melodic, if it doesn't have good chord changes, if it doesn't have good vocals or the singer ain't any good, I'm out.
Imagine writing a song that changes the entire music industry
Well, that's what Nirvana did.
with that one song.
Yeah.
That's just. I remember when the wave was coming with that song. It was like everybody was into it.
Yeah.
Every local band covered it. Every DJ played it.
Well, again, because it was fresh, it was new. Our genre had run its course because everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Everybody looked the same, sounded the same, played the same.
Yeah.
It got too repetitive, and it got too. You knew what you were going to see before you even saw it.
Yeah, the cookie cutter
Yeah, the
that you've
cookie cutter,
always
yeah.
referred to.
So when these guys came out and offered up something new, I got why the younger people went for it, and radio jumped to it, and now radio's not even a factor. So everything's just changed.
I never got that teenage angst stuff. What the hell's a teenager need to be angry for? They're kids.
I don't know.
It's dumb. Their bills are paid.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything.
All you got to do is go to school and not flunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it together, you little fucks.
The White Stripes are now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Again, not familiar really.
Yeah.
I know I've heard of them, but not my thing.
I don't think they had enough hits for me to be considered a legendary band.
Give me one.
Seven Nation Army.
Don't know. See,
Yeah.
because radio, there's nothing on the radio anymore. Unless you know what you're looking for, like on Spotify or on Apple Music. I don't. Or if I hear Eddie Trunk talk about a band, that's how I know. That's how I download my music anymore.
That's the only one I knew. So apparently, when they came out, they had a female drummer, and then the singer, Jack White, and it was said that was his sister.
Did he
it was-
fuck her?
It turned out it was his wife.
So he did
I
fuck
can't
her.
remember who started the rumor, but I think the band went along with it, that was his sister. Or maybe I have it reversed. Maybe it was his sister, and they said it was his wife. Or yeah,
You know, I
but
fucked my
it was
sister.
weird. You did. I heard
Yeah.
that. You got to retell it real quick for the people who didn't hear that episode. If not, they're going to think you're a
Yeah, I
sister
think I'm a
fucker.
real pervert. He is from West Virginia, isn't he?
Just the tip of West Virginia,
All
but
right.
enough in.
I was at the Rabbit's Foot, a bar in Frederick, Maryland, one night. Me and my wife used to go there. Kelly, before we were married, my wife lived in Walkersville, which is about 15 minutes from Frederick, and I lived in Hagerstown, and we would usually meet up there. And that's how that's how I fell in love with my wife, when everybody stepped over this drunk all night long. She went over and picked him up and put him on a bar. And anyway, I thought that's a special girl there. But as we were leaving that night, some guy goes, "Steve Wayman." Yeah. "I fucked your sister." I said, "So did I." And he goes, "What?" "So did I." I don't have a sister, but I let this guy believe to this day that I fucked my sister.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, why would anybody walk up to anybody and say
Yeah.
that? So I just wanted to give him a zinger right back. And I short-lived with him for a while. Steve Wayman fucked his own sister.
He's got a story for life. All right, the last one that I saw in this group on Google that got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is Warren Zevon.
I know one thing.
Yeah.
Werewolves in London. That's all I know.
That's all I know of him.
Yes. Whatever.
Yeah, I get it. Let's switch over to some emails. We've got a lot of
Alrighty.
emails from people.
I like how you write them down.
Yeah. First one, James Buckley asks, Steve, have you all ever played with Enuff's Enuff? What are your thoughts on them?
We have, yeah. Chips Enuff, yeah, sure. On the cruise, probably a couple times. Some festivals, I'm sure. We've done shows with them. They're good. They're good friends. I think Ronnie and Chip were pretty good friends. When Ronnie left, when Kix disbanded in 95, 96, Ronnie went to L.A. And he hooked up with a lot of people out there. He hooked up with Chips Enuff. He hooked up with the drummer from Guns N' Roses, Steve Adler. He hooked up with a lot of people. Nothing come out of it, but everybody knew who he was, and everybody liked him, and everybody wanted to work with him.
I love the story. He went to a Motley Crue. He was friends with Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee loved the first record.
Right.
And he went to a rehearsal of Motley Crue, and he said, bass. Nicky Sixx had a new bass, and he had all these bracelets on his arm. He really wasn't good at bass, Ronnie said at that point, and he was scratching his guitar up with all his bracelets. Ronnie just sat there and watched the guitar being, you know how he is with guitars.
Yeah.
It was driving him nuts. But it was so cool that Tommy Lee was a fan of Kix.
Yeah, we saw them in the Rainbow a lot, and they would always come up to us and tell us how big of fans they were. And it's like, well, that's cool, because we weren't shit. That's when we were opening for Guns N' Roses, unsigned band in L.A. The guys in Motley Crue telling us how great we are. It's like, something just doesn't add up here.
All right. Ron Bedsaw says, in terms of new music, have you heard of Rival Sons? And if so, what are your thoughts on them?
Love Rival Sons. Yeah, I heard this. Again, I get all my new music off of Eddie Trunk. When he says something's good, I'll give it a listen. And yeah, they're great. And I think a couple of students have brought some of their music in and said, have you heard of these guys? I want to learn how to sing this. And this guy's really good. So, but yeah, I'm familiar, and I like them a lot. In fact, aren't we going to go see him?
No, we're going
to see Struts in Dirty Honey.
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to see Rival Sons. I hope they come back around, because that's the kind of band that I can go out and see and nobody will bother me, because nobody gives a fuck who I am. I like that.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole of the Struts. I only knew one or two of their songs, but
they're great.
Since we got tickets to go, man, every one of their songs is just huge. They did a cover of the Rolling Stones song I sent to you.
Yeah, you sent it to me.
On the
It's
Howard
great.
Stern. Man, that's incredible.
I think they're doing that a lot. They're doing a lot of covers, and they're great at it.
Yeah.
They're just a good rock and roll band, and the singer's amazing. I know they played up in Harrisburg a couple years ago, and I missed them. I wanted to go see them, but if I went to a show like that, I wouldn't get to watch the band. I would have to take pictures and sign shit all night long.
Attention all smokers, tokers, and true connoisseurs. Simple Pleasures is your one-stop hemp and smoke shop right here in Hagerstown. From premium flower and potent THCA to exclusive glass pieces and the best vapes in the game, we've got everything you need. And now, catch us on the Smoke Me Out podcast, where we bring the biggest names, community leaders, and the latest in the industry. So whether you're rolling up, dabbing out, or just vibing, Simple Pleasures has your back. Pull up today or shop online. Simple Pleasures. Shop, smoke, chill, repeat.
I like the guy stopped you for an interview and you said, I got to go poop.
Oh, it was Eddie. That was Eddie Trunk. That was the first Rocklahoma. They took us in, because Eddie would interview all the bands, and the bands would go into where he was interviewing. And I always like to get a rise out of people. And Eddie goes, Steve, how you doing? I got poop. Just deadpan and look right at the camera. And I know the whole crowd's watching, because the interviews are being, sent out to the audience on a big giant screen. So yeah, I stumped him a little bit there. I stumped the trunk.
That's hilarious. Vinny Messina, being on Atlantic, did you ever run into Steve Marriott in the Reformed Humble Pie?
No, I never did. I was a fan. We used to do some Humble Pie. When I first joined the Shoes, we did some Humble Pie. Donnie Spence sang it. I don't need no doctor. Remember that song? I don't need no doctor. Whatever. But no, never got to meet him.
Okay. Damn. Brian from Miamisburg. Not sure if that's a real town or if
he
he's
made
just
that
saying.
up.
What vocalist
Miami's Bird.
influenced you the most?
What group?
What vocalist influenced you the most?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. Ooh. There's 3 or 4. There's not just one. Freddie Mercury, of course. I learned to sing harmony by learning Beatles songs and Beach Boys songs. That's how I learned to harmonize. I would pick the main vocal. Okay, now what's the underneath part? And I'd do the Three Stooges thing. Hey, hello, hello, hello. You know, the hello is the main thing. Hello is the low harmony. Hello is the high harmony. So Queen taught me how to do that. So then I got into, I love Burton Cummings from the Guess Who.
Okay.
Just a smooth voice,
yeah.
great voice. Steven Tyler, of course, uniqueness. Guy from Foreigner, just incredible.
Singer for Foreigner?
Yeah.
Lou Graham.
Lou Graham, thank you. And yeah,
How
I know.
did you do that? You're a drummer.
Cheap Trick.
Robin Zander.
Robin Zander, thank you. I can't think of anybody's name, but those guys were huge influences for me. And anybody that was any good was an influence for me. Paul McCartney is a huge influence for me. But I would say Queen and even Three Dog Night. Three Dog Night has some great songs and
That's
again,
surprising.
harmonies.
Yeah.
The Monkees had some great songs, but they didn't write them, but they had some great songs.
Yeah.
Mickey Dolenz was a really good singer. That's all I can, off the top of my head, those would be the ones that.
That's our friend Eric's brother-in-law,
Who?
Mickey. Mickey.
Really?
Remember Eric from the Gettysburg Museum? Came down and got some kick stuff? Mm-hmm. Well, he said next time he's in the area, and we're going to go out to dinner with him and Mickey.
I would love that.
Yeah, wouldn't that
Yeah.
be cool? So, Eric, we're not forgetting, brother. Just get that invite. So that leads us into the next one from Tyson Clark. Who taught Steve how to sing properly as far as the importance of warm-ups, cool-downs, and the technical stuff?
I started singing probably in grade school. I would be in plays. And the nuns, which I went to Catholic school, the nuns would go around to each desk and make you sing just to see who has any talent whatsoever. So we put somebody in this play and we'd make sure they can sing. And I would always get picked to sing. And I started playing drums at 8 when I was 8 years old. So when I would play drums in my favorite bands, I would sing along. And after a while, I'm starting thinking, well, I'm singing pretty good here. And the first band that I was in, I was just the drummer, and we're playing a lot of Grand Funk and a lot of, I can't think of it anymore, Eric Clapton, a bunch of stuff out of the 60s and 70s, Beatles. And the guy that we had singing couldn't sing. And they just kept looking at me and said, Steve, why don't you do it? You can sing. And I finally relented because we would go out and play these teeny bopper shows, and our singer's singing everything like an octave lower than it should be.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it ain't working. So I became the vocalist from behind the drums. I just went on just what I knew and my natural talent until I got in to start making records. And that's when I took a little of vocal training. And it wasn't as much training as it was how to prepare your voice. Because we were doing 5-6 shows a week. You got to learn how to warm up. You got to learn how to cool down. You got to learn how to pace yourself. There's things that you can learn that preserve your voice. And I learned all those things. And that's what I share with students when I started teaching. But it's important. I mean, people who go through a career and don't do any vocal training, which I think Robin Zander, I just heard recently, he just started doing warm-ups. And that pisses me off because I always had to do a warm-up in order for my voice to work properly. Some people think that doing easier stuff in the beginning of their show is their warm-up. That's how you tear your voice up.
Yeah.
So you got to warm up properly. And I always did that.
So pretty much self-taught, except for the little bit you had before the first record.
I mean, learning to sing, it was all self-taught, and it was singing along with my favorite, Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I forgot Robert Plant. How can you forget Robert Plant?
No.
Just singing along with all that stuff and being able to do it, and do it pretty effortlessly. And it wasn't until like my mid-20s is when I took training, as I
Okay.
started to realize, okay, this is getting harder and harder because we're playing more and more. So you gotta take care of yourself.
Nice. I think we got time for one more question.
Okay, then I got to go shit.
Victor Barros writes, how was it touring with RATT in 1989? Any rock star egos when it comes to those guys? I've always heard Piercy was full of himself back in the day.
There's some truth to that. Stephen was a little full of himself. But getting on that RATT tour was like the biggest hurrah of our career. Because we'd done a lot of openings. We'd opened for Nugent and Aerosmith and ZZ Top and blah, blah, on and on and on and on. We opened for so many bands. But to finally get a real tour on a tour bus, opening for a band that was, filling arenas. And we were third on the bill, but it was still like it was the best. And one night it stands out to me, whenever you play New Orleans, you always make sure you got the next night off because you're going to get wrecked.
Okay.
Because you get down to Bourbon Street and you're going to get wrecked. Everybody's drinking Hurricanes. You familiar with a Hurricane?
Yes.
Just this red drink.
Yep.
Everybody has red tongues, red mouth, and everybody's hammered. Well, Stephen Piercy was with us, and these people kept coming up to him, and he finally got up with a Hurricane, and he takes it and he throws it into this big, giant waterfall fireplace. If you've ever been to O'Brien's, there's this big, giant waterfall fireplace. He took this Hurricane and threw it in there. All that's to say, leave me the fuck alone. But that was Stephen being a rock star. But when he was around us and backstage, he was as normal as anybody.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know, some people feel like you have to live that persona when you're in the public eye. I never felt like that. I always went back to my shy little country boy self.
Yeah.
But some guys gotta, and Ronnie and Brian could pull that off. They could have that rock star attitude. I never had that. But yeah, Stephen Piercy could be a rock star. The rest of the guys were just as normal as hell. Juan was great. The guitar player, Warren DeMartini, was great. Robin, the hell is his last name? Robin
Crosby.
Thank you. I don't remember. I'm fucking.
Huh? He always knows the name.
I wish I did. I wasn't one of those kids that looked at all the albums and knew all the credits. I didn't give a fuck about that. I know what they look like. That's good enough for me, and I'd move on. Robin Crosby. Brian and I did this Headbangers Ball on MTV, and I don't know how or why it happened, but they said, "Oh, you're from Maryland, so you're famous for crabs."
Okay.
And I go, "Yeah, I guess." And they said, and I just started doing this. And then I just started doing this. Before I knew it, I was doing the dancing crab, and I was going back and forth like crabs go sideways. Well, because it's on MTV and 10 million people watched it, every night we went out and played with RATT and Brittany Fox, I had to do that stupid fucking crab dance. We would do Don't Close Your Eyes, we would do Cold Blood, we'd do Blow My Fuse. Nothing got over like the dancing crab. Goes to show how stupid shit and how it works. But Robin Crosby, I'm getting back to Robin. Stephen and Robin did Headbangers Ball, and we were on the tour, and
Yes.
they saw how well we did. They said, "Why don't you come join us? Because we suck at this stuff." So Brian and I went with him, and I think I called Brian the junior samples of rock and roll that night, because Brian doesn't talk.
Right.
He just sits, goes, So I just, Brian, what the fuck good are you?
Where's Buck Sin?
Yeah, really. Well, bring back Buck Sin, for Christ's sakes. So Brian Crosby, one night, he used to watch us on stage every night. He liked our band. And Robin, one night, he was up on stage and he said, "I got this canker sore in my mouth and it hurts like hell." And every time I pull it, it hurts like hell. And Brian went on MTV that night and said, "Well, Robin's got a canker sore and he should do the canker boingy." He pulled his lip down and just starts bouncing up and down. And he calls it the canker boingy. So when we go out to watch RATT play, we're looking up at Robin. There's Robin up on stage doing the canker boingy
Was he really?
in front of all these people. That tour was just so much fun. We had a great time. Hated when it ended. But when it ended is when we went on the Whitesnake Tesla tour,
Okay.
which was even bigger, somewhat bigger and better. And then we went on the Whitesnake tour. So we just kept escalating and got to that point where that was a very, very good year. Our best year ever. And after that, it was all downhill.
And then I guess you never toured with RATT again. It was just meeting up across the country at different
We did shows with
festivals?
Steven once in a while, with just Stephen Piercy. No, never with RATT again.
Damn. All right. Well, believe it or not, it's that time. We're going to start extending these.
All right.
You and I talked.
Hopefully it'll be warmer out next time we do this.
We can take them up to 45 minutes, I believe.
That's up to you. As long as you keep my motor moving, I'm good.
Yeah. We got plenty of stuff in the tank.
All right.
Yeah, maybe starting next week, and then we can talk about how your pitch goes this week.
Okay. Yeah, I got to
the flying
practice.
boxcars.
I got to get my arm in shape. Do they have a place for me to throw over there?
Yeah.
Do they? Yeah. I might have to do that because, like I said, I haven't thrown a baseball since my son got out of Little League.
You want to take
All right,
us out?
we'll take you out. There.
a
That's
Bob-
for assholes on harmonica.
Bob Dylan cover?
Yeah.